It's a beautiful Wednesday, and this is Jasiri, the table where bold conversations meet real issues. I am Omotunde Adebowale David, aka Lolo One, and today we're diving into a topic that strikes at the heart of democracy: voting. A new bill making its way through the House of Representatives wants to make voting mandatory for every Nigerian aged 18 and above, with stiff penalties for those who don't show up at the polls, jail time or a fine, just for not voting. It's bold, it's controversial, and that's what we're unpacking today. Is this the push Nigeria needs to take elections seriously, or a dangerous overreach? You'd have to stick with us because we're really going there today. But first, in the past few days, Nigeria has once again been rocked by instances of police brutality that have been captured on camera. As they say, Ibadan, the capital city of Oyo State, is still reeling from the death of a young boy who was killed yesterday. 14-year-old boy Kehinde Alade lost his life to a stray police bullet while on his way to write his WAEC exam. Alade was riding with his father and twin brother when police allegedly opened fire during a traffic stop near the airport roundabout. Let's take a look.
Good. Comment tu fais là?
All right, so in a statement released by the Oyo State Police Command, authorities claim the father, Odunayo Alade, drove against traffic and rammed into several official vehicles in an attempt to evade arrest. One officer reportedly fired at a tire, but the bullet hit Kehinde instead. He was rushed to the hospital, but pronounced dead on arrival. What followed was a wave of protest and outrage. Residents, friends, and family carried Kehinde's lifeless body to the Oyo State Secretariat, demanding justice. The Oyo State government has called the killing, in quote, painful and avoidable, end of quote, and confirmed that the officer responsible is under investigation. All right, so let's take some reactions before we get into other instances. Truth be told, the man knows he is not the only one in the car. He has his little boy there. He should have protected the boy. One, it's not as if he kidnapped him or carried some illegal stuff. Park your car and plead for passing one way, or leave your car and take the boy to school. The officer should probably not have discharged a firearm in that scenario. I most certainly agree, but the father of that child is the most to blame. You go one way, you get caught, you then decide to ram into vehicles, not just destroying property, but putting people's lives at risk. The police were right in the assessment, okay, that such desperate and reckless behavior crossed the line of reasonable suspicion. However, shooting is a no-no. The moment you discharge a firearm, you are taking a risk. The risk most always crosses the line from suspicion to near certainty. A little bit of patience would have saved the child, but he decided to endanger their lives. Now one of the twins is gone. With what I observed, he as an experienced driver, police pulled him over and he told them his kids are late to school as they had exams to sit for, and the reason for his urgency. Police, on the other hand, refused to let him go, freely resulted to the emergency driving. Right, Bibi says the states are more interested in revenue than the safety of citizens. How can a right-thinking police officer shoot on a busy road? It's better for a suspect to escape than losing the life of an innocent. Ooh. This young lad was fatally shot by, a police stray bullet while en route to take the WAEC exam today in Ibadan. The escalating issue of Nigerian police brutality and bestiality has returned with full force in the last few weeks, and as long as retired, tired, and incompetent Kayode Egbetokun remains in charge as the illegal general of police, things will never change for the better. This is from Showore Omoyele.
Hold on.
Okay.
Because we need to layer the conversation, unfortunately. There is one thing I do want to say, referring back to the statement from the Oyo State Police Command. On point 5, they have said that to forestall any threat to public peace, the Commissioner of Police, CP Johnson Adeola, has deployed tactical intelligence units following the police mobile force to the scene and other strategic locations in Ibadan as well. And the police commissioner has ordered a comprehensive investigation into the incident to be led by the Deputy Commissioner of Police in charge of the State Criminal Investigation Department. Now, they have, of course, taken the officer responsible for the discharge of the firearm into custody, along with other members of the team, and it's cooperating fully with the ongoing investigation. The police command extends its deepest condolences to the family of Kehinde Alade, and the command remains resolute in its commitment to upholding justice and ensuring accountability. I think it was just important to point that out. Now, as Kat said earlier, this isn't an isolated case. Another disturbing incident involving police. This is still the scene from yesterday. Let's come back to the studio, please. Officers and passengers in a Valg vehicle heading to Jos from Abuja also sparked outrage online, with Nigerians calling for an investigation into what they describe as a clear case of police brutality. Ex-user at Lucy Freeman shared the story on behalf of someone who wanted to remain anonymous. Now, she narrated how their vehicle met a blocked road close to Maraba, and like all the other vehicles in front of them, turned around to take one way. I think all of us have been in those situations in public vehicles, and it's blocked and everybody's going that way. But they were stopped by the police in the middle of the road. The driver apparently tried to explain that he was trying to park the vehicle, and before anyone could understand what was happening, he came under assault. They reportedly tried to slap the woman in the front seat, who had to tell them she was a passenger, and there was also a pregnant passenger who begged them to leave her alone, but the police demanded that everyone come down. The driver was reportedly dragged away without any explanation. I do have to warn you that this might disturb some viewers. Here's the accompanying video to the series of tweets.
Are you mad? You broke Are you mad? You broke my boy? You broke my boy? Are you mad?
Come on, don't know any man now. Yeah. Make I carry my bag away.
You own this.
You are this. You are pressing my
That's why you press her.
That indeed is disturbing. But let's not forget that just last week, another disturbing video surfaced online showing Inspector Obik Modestus of the Lagos Police Command assaulting a cab driver in broad daylight. The incident showed Modestus slapping the driver repeatedly while the man pleaded helplessly. It unfortunately didn't end there, as the officer dragged the driver out of his car to other officers who also joined in assaulting the driver, as revealed by one of his passengers. CSP Benjamin O'Day later released a statement saying that the inspector has since been arrested and is under investigation. But again, it's one more brick in a growing wall of distrust between citizens and those sworn to protect them. Here is the video. Let's see what happened.
Are you mad? 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 Just take it easy.
The video police. Huh? Jesus. Why are they beating him up?
No, we have to actually go and stay there. Stay in the car with you. Just stay in the car.
He just started beating me. They didn't even let... The guy was trying to record. They seized his phone. And this man, it's just... Not all of them, just this one that is holding him. True. Why? Why are they doing this?
The policeman don't carry, don't drag the guy, don't start the beat for 1 hour.
Oh my God. They're already fighting. They're already fighting. Hope they cannot see me before they collect my phone. Jesus. Why are they beating him up? No. No, it's talking to my sister. She's not gonna see me recording. Jesus, Jesus. They're telling my friend to delete his video. They're telling him to delete his video. God, I hope you don't see me. Oh, Jesus, 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 I'm vibrating. Ew, ew, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Jesus Christ of Nazareth. See his face. This is what? This is 11. We're trying to get another ride. They've left the man, but the man refused. He's saying that. Okay.
Oh, honestly, you cannot even imagine how traumatized I am. It's making me relive my own experience. And sometimes you are wondering that, are these supposed to be people that should be protecting us? Look at the way the man was busy assaulting the guy seriously, slapping him around. How can you see this and think that they can protect you? There are better ways of doing these things. If you have arrested someone, you would allow the person, please, can you step out of your vehicle?
No, we don't do that.
They drag, just like they did.
Please.
They removed our car key without even putting off the car.
Did you see what happened?
That's the guy.
The one in Abuja, he was struggling over the female passenger, struggling to remove the car key. And you keep wondering about the training. The Oyo Police Command, we're seeing the video. Apparently, he seems that he was the father of the young boy in question was committing a crime by going in one way, even if his explanation was that his children were late. But we need to start asking about the reaction. What is the training of the police? Is the reaction, because even if that bullet did not hit Kehinde, it was going to hit somebody. It was going to hit somebody. Unfortunately, it was Kehinde. Unfortunately, it could have been anybody. So when it hits Kehinde, it could have been any. Do you see how many people were around?
Oh my God!
So why is the first thought to always be some level of a high level of
this is not what I say retaliation.
It's not retaliation. And these people are only strong when they have the guns in their hands.
Oh my God! We know he broke the law. He was trying to go on a one-way. But when you have caught him on camera, you can see his plate number clearly. That means he cannot escape. If the system you say you've put in place is working, everybody's paying for their licenses. The licenses are being tracked. You have to do everything. So his license is probably tied to his home address, his phone number, his driver's license or license plate. So why? And they would have seen children in that car.
No, they now said that they're not sure if it was a case of abduction or not because of the way he was behaving. All of that aside, why are we having these outsized reactions? You shoot in a place where there are people. Let's go to the Abuja one. Did you see the slap?
Would you say it's commensurate to... No, how can you measure...
Why are you slapping him? Because
the reaction to what is happening. See the way they beat people about. See that policeman, his shirt was undone. If he wasn't wearing
slippers.
If he wasn't a police officer, I would think he's a tout.
No, he is a tout. It's a clear show of abuse. And it's not something that stands in isolation. It trickles down from top, whether you like it or not. It trickles down from the barbaric attitude and response to citizens and human lives and the situations on ground. Tolu asked a question, is that the best thing you could have done as a police officer in that moment? Where is your training? So, there's so many things that yawn at us. So you don't have training, because if you had training, adequate training, you wouldn't behave like an animal or like a tout. You're on a busy road, and because you allow yourself as a man take a step ahead of you, because in your head, you're thinking, who is he to do this to me? You don't think as a police officer at that time, you're thinking as a man.
No, I think being the police officer then adds.
Then being a police officer
is like a layered response.
Look at the guy in Abuja they were shoving around. He has passengers in his car.
This is Lagos.
You are pushing him up and down.
Do you know how afraid those girls were trying to record?
Okay, let's do the Nigerian thing. Let's say this guy now knew somebody important or powerful in government, and they didn't know that. And he calls one of his brothers who is a soldier or who is something to discipline them.
This would escalate so quickly.
Thank you. It goes to show you that you must know somebody to make sure that at least you're safe. your
But
life
how-
is safe.
At the end of the day, just how safe are you? You're never safe enough. So my husband goes out at night, and I'm always telling him, I beg of you. If you
argue with
he
him.
doesn't, he has gray hair. You can't really think he's one Yahoo boy
Yeah.
because
But at the
oftentimes
same
if he's by
time,
himself, but at the same time, you never know who you meet on the
Yes,
road.
yeah.
I beg, if they say stop, oh God, just reduce yours, and that should not have to be. We should not have to be asking Nigerians to shrink themselves
yes.
in engaging with the police, in
You
engaging
better
with the
shrink
military.
yourself when they are carrying weapons.
I know. So we went out on Saturday. I went out. He came to pick me. I begged him. He came to pick me. We're going. We're hitting our street. It was darkness. Guess what? Next thing we see, flashlight. And then we realize it's the police. But your behavior is also like those of criminals.
Yeah.
How am I so sure
That
with you
you are
flashing lights in my
yeah.
face that you're actually police? We need to see a difference. And I feel bad for those who have to represent the police in many instances, because there are situations of police officers being taken to court, being found guilty, and being sentenced. But let me tell you, too many bad eggs. It's a bad egg that spoils a bunch, right? Or apples.
Yes.
Too
But
many
it seems
bad
that there are
eggs.
just
And they
too
keep telling
many
us-
bad apples in this bunch.
And I understand what the Benjamin
Kehinde is
Monday
dead.
is trying
WAEC.
to do.
Look at that
But
child,
this
a
is
brilliant
more
light
than
snuffed
just
out.
coming and saying words and saying, okay, we have arrested the person. How do we prevent it from happening again? It could be one is a mistake, but Kehinde is dead. These are not isolated, like we told you guys. It's not an isolated
Three that were
case.
pointing to that were caught on camera. What about all the other ones that have happened in between that were not caught on camera?
And then you're threatening the person, and you're threatening them and telling them they must delete the video. And you are coming in, you appear in the most undignified way, meaning that you don't even take your work seriously. You are there buttoned,
buttoned
your
down.
shirt is open. And you say you're a police officer. Are you on break? Are you on, why do you behave then like a
Are you on something?
It is these same police officers
let's
that
leave that.
tout
Are you on
and
something
armed
else?
robbers go and pay them money and wear your
Borrow
uniforms and
uniform.
go on the streets and hurt and inflict harm on people.
I want to remind
Are we
the
too hungry
government.
in the country?
I want to remind the
Why
government
are we so compromised?
that
Why
it
is
was
the
a
police
case
force
of
so
police
compromised?
brutality that sparked NSARS. You promised people change in one fashion or the other. Every new police inspector general comes in and they say no more roadblocks. Police at the roadblocks will tell you he should come and tell them.
Tell them.
They'll say no more roadblocks, no more VIP escort. They'll tell you to come and tell them. Please remember that it was a police brutality instance that sparked NSARS. You are testing the people. You are pushing them. There'll be a point in time when Nigerians will not go through that wall again anymore for you. They'll turn and face you.
Honestly, that time is coming. And it's a very traumatizing experience for me this one, because
Just
I can
watching it,
literally relieve
I have goosebumps.
everything
Just
and what
watching
happened to me, where people kept saying, oh, Lola, it's because you know people. It's because they know you. But these officers that assaulted me, they didn't even know who I was. It was people telling them that, do you know who that lady is? And I'm like, okay, if I wasn't who I was, at least I'm a law-abiding citizen of a state.
And does it
I'm a
always boil
human
down
being.
to
I don't have to be someone
who
to
you
be
are?
protected.
And to be respected.
Yes, you swore that you will lead, you are to protect lives and properties. But if we now have to protect ourselves against you,
How do we even do
lot.
that? We've talked on this table, we've talked about police officers and the force being trigger happy. You're on the streets and your hand is just itching you to just go, and you go. Now, what are you going to say? The boy, how old was Kehinde?
Somebody that is writing WAEC, maybe about 14.
14.
You left them
His mother, I can imagine what their day was like in the morning. Maybe the boys were running late, the mom has grabbed cooked, and the father said, let me go and drop them, not knowing that that would be the last time he will see one of his children.
I know.
And do you know the other boy do you know how
His
traumatized his twin will be?
His twin.
We need to start taking, like Tolu said, we need to start taking these things seriously, and whether we like it or not, we are approaching you keep pushing, and it becomes a ripple effect. It will just start with one thing. Whether we say it's not my portion, whether we say it will not happen, it will just be one fine morning. The sun will rise, the cocks will crow, and then everything will just start going all right. So guys, whether we like it or not, it is something that we need to pay attention to. Yeah. The police officers, the force, is going gaga. We as citizens, we are no longer safe. Here to know what she said. You go out at night or go out, you have to say, oh, good evening, sir. Yes, sir. You have to just contain yourself and even shrink yourself just because you don't want to get into trouble.
We'll be going on a break now. We're just getting started here on Jasiri. When we come back, we're diving into one of the most talked about proposals at the National Assembly right now. A bill that could make voting mandatory in Nigeria with jail term or fines for anyone who doesn't show up at the polls. Is this a bold step towards democracy, or is this crossing the line? Joining us after the break is Elvis Akpobi, Executive Director of Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. You need to stick around because this is going to be an interesting conversation.
Now, join today's conversation via social media. We are at News Central TV. This is Jasiri, and it's a Wednesday packed with heat. I'm Tolulokwe Adile Balogun. And today we're pulling no punches as we dig into a bill that could radically change Nigeria's democracy. A bill that would make voting compulsory for every Nigerian age 18 and above, with the penalty for failing to vote being 100,000 naira fine or 6 months behind bars. And this bill has passed second reading in the House of Representatives. Now, supporters say it is the bold push we need to fight voter apathy and get Nigerians involved in shaping the country's future. But critics, including legal experts like Femi Falana, are calling it unconstitutional, oppressive, and deeply flawed in a system already struggling with credibility and access. So what does it really mean to force participation in democracy? Does compulsory voting empower us or punish us? And is this bill a genuine fix or just political noise? Let's get into it. Now, joining us is Elvis Akpobi. He's the Executive Director of the Not Too Young to Lead Initiative. Elvis, welcome to Jasiri.
Thank you.
All right, Elvis, as we start this conversation, let's take a look at what one of the sponsors of this bill had to say. The bill is sponsored by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, and Daniel Asama Ago, Labour Party member, representing Bassa Jos North, Federal Constituency of Plateau State. This is Tajuddin Abbas.
Far away from the subject matter. It's just that we need to understand that for us to deepen democracy and extract the commitment of people, we have to make them part and parcel of the election process.
Point of
Not
order.
everyone has that responsibility of feeling himself that he is part of the election, either for or against every leader. Once you have that, it will create more consciousness and more commitment to whatever you do. You hold your leaders more accountable. So please, what you have said is noted. And I'm happy that you didn't say it is not a good thing to do. It's just that you are saying you do not see, you have observed that a lot of people have lost confidence in the country. And this is one of the areas that we can restore the confidence of people. Because if you know truly you participate in election, you'll be more committed to the leadership and you hold the leaders accountable.
All right, so he said what he said, and we heard his reasoning behind the bill. Supporters say this bill will strengthen democracy by increasing participation. What do you make of this reasoning?
For me, it's quite unfortunate that at this time it seems as if we contracted governance with our vote to people who doesn't want to face reality. I think we have other pressing issues as Nigerians. I was believing the legislature should be looking into, mostly from the vast unemployment, the insecurity. Every reasonable legislative house should be thinking of how to tackle such problems and not always bringing politicized bill. Because as far as I'm concerned, if whoever sponsored that bill has young people that have gone through the 4 walls of schools and they are in their houses, they're not doing anything, they don't have any job, I'm sure the bill that should come out should be how to, make it compulsory that once you're done with school, you have a job waiting for you. Let's ask ourselves, why trying to make it compulsory for people to vote? The sponsor of this bill, the sponsor asks himself what was leading to voter apathy. I think we should be thinking about building strong institutions with the political empire. I was a privileged electoral observer in the last election in Liberia, and each time I am privileged to go into any country, I engage with the young people and I ask a handful of them, who were very bitter about the incumbent president then, George Weah. And they left a young person to vote an older person. And I was privileged to go to the electoral umpire's office, and I discussed with some officials there. I saw persons who were willing to, give the results of what the people will vote. Let's ask ourselves, do Nigerians trust the electoral umpire of today? If they do, you don't need to bring a bill that will make people go and vote. When people know that their vote is secured, their vote will reflect the result, you don't need a bill that will make it mandatory for them to vote. I think that's my take on this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break, Elvis. When we come back, we'll look at some of the provisions of the bill. We'll also look at the countries where voting is mandatory. This is not something new. There's a lot more conversation to be had on this. And one other thing that INEC has said in recent times that has raised a few eyebrows. The conversation continues after this.
Welcome back. You're watching Jasiri, and we're live on all our digital platforms. So imagine being jailed or fined for not voting. That could soon be our reality in Nigeria, as the House of Representatives considers a bill to make voting compulsory for all citizens 18 years and above. Is this a solution to voter apathy or a step too far? Elvis Akpobi is still with us as we break it down. Elvis, so thank you for staying with us through the break.
Thank you.
All right, so practically speaking, how would this law even be enforced? Can the system handle tracking and prosecuting non-voters?
You already know they can't. I'm a privileged graduate of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. And in my state there, I was meant to understand that everything rises and falls on leadership, and policies, effective policies, make good leadership. But oftentimes our policies are laced with bias, our policies are laced with ethnic binaries and all that. Another thing again is when you make this bill, which for me, I think this is not the bill we need at the moment. The people enacting this bill, who will be the drivers of these bills? And that's how policies drive. Will the drivers be laced with bias? We're having, let's not forget too that at the moment, Nigerians don't trust the political umpire. I'm speaking for myself, and I think I'm speaking for a percentage of young people who knows that our electoral system is not the way it used to be, the way it ought to be. You agree with me that the last election, there were issues of what was on the act did not reflect reality, where they tell you electronic voting transmission, it will reflect immediately. The INEC chairman came on board and tried to interpret it differently, and Nigerians were not too comfortable with it. So I'm still half annoyed and disappointed at the moment that when we have other pressing issues ranging from insecurity, ranging from economic instability, they are introducing a bill that that is mandatory for voting. If you build confidence, if you strengthen the electoral umpire, you don't need to. When people know that their votes will count, you don't need to make it mandatory for people to vote. Because as far as I'm concerned, it's every patriotic citizen knows that they contract governance to people who will make policies for them. And those people they contract governance to will either make or map their country or their states. So for me, I think the National Assembly should start going in the right direction, because lately their bills are, for me, I'm speaking for myself, are too laced with politics. I think there's time for governance and there's time for politics. And what they're doing, for me, I'm not too comfortable with it. We have young people today. We agree with me. There's insecurity in the land today, and a handful of this crime today are being bettered by young people. And when young people are not engaged, when they are not put on the right path, they channel their energy to negativity. If you take statistics of, if you do an interview today on the streets, in the streets of Nigeria, you and ask people if they want to stay in Nigeria or escape Nigeria, a handful of young people have given up on Nigeria, and I believe that escaping Nigeria is the only way to escape stagnation, the only way to escape poverty, which is not too good for a country that is termed the giant of Africa.
Thank you so much for your contribution so far. But the senior advocate of Nigeria, that is Mr. Femi Falana, has come out strongly against the bill, calling it unconstitutional and a violation of citizens' rights. So yes, we agree it's unconstitutional now. But it has now passed the second reading. That means it's on its way to gaining constitutional.
Possibly.
Possibly, if it just gets the accent of the president. Beyond what Femi Falana sees as the unconstitutionality of the bill, what do you think are the other criticisms of this bill? Aside the fact that, it cannot cure the voters' apathy, it's not constitutional, because if it gains legitimacy, what are other things that we can throw at them to say, no, for these X and Y reasons, this bill should not pass?
So Elvis, look at the provisions of the bill and take us through where the issues are.
The issues for me, what bettered the bill in the first place for me is it should be dead on arrival. But for a country like Nigeria where abnormality becomes normal, what used to be bad because not so bad. And let's forget too, the ego will come in because I meant to understand that one of the principal officers of the House of Representatives is the sponsor of this bill, and it won't be nice. You and I agree that the members will want to, whether they deep inside them they know this bill is not right, they will want to, because of lobby and all that, want to make sure the bill stay true. But what will not be to, I don't know if they've done public hearing for it, but they should, the National Assembly should not forget that there's a new generation of young people that they need to negotiate with, because you can pass a bill, you make it an act and all that. Let me use our normal language. You arrest people tired because for someone that knows that, yes, and when you keep arresting people and people that are not privileged to have a square meal, you want them to come and be billed for 100,000. It's disappointing though, but let's see how this ends. But I want to seize the opportunity to, re-echo the fact that there are other pertinent issues we are plagued with today as Nigerians that I was thinking how a National Assembly will be looking into, and not mandatory electoral voting process. What happened to independent candidacy where young people can, I'm even surprised that there's a particular set of persons that rode on the ladder of a particular
not too young
party to the National Assembly. These persons were seen as messiahs, but today they are complacent, they're not saying anything. I'm even surprised that up till now we don't have a bill for independent candidacy where people that are liked, that don't have deep pockets, can go to pick nomination form and get elected. But today the reverse is the case, where everybody is either moving to the political right or to the political left, and bills like this are coming up.
So Elvis,
it doesn't tell well of Nigeria.
You touch on two things. I will withhold my comments, but I'll just make sure we heard. One, it's timing. When the time that we're taking to debate this kind of bill is time that should be used to focus on issues that are pertinent to Nigerians. A report recently came out, I think about a week and a half ago, that talked about Nigeria being the country with the most people lacking access to electricity. This morning on Breakfast Central, we had the governor of Borno State. Insecurity continues to be a massive, massive issue. We have an exclusive coming out with one of the representatives of the Middle Belt Forum. And that's talking about what's happening in the Middle Belt. And then you now add it to the fact that you have people, as you said, who rolled in on a particular party who seem to now be jumping the carpet or jumping the aisle. And it leads you once again to question if any of our political parties even have an ideology that is of importance to the people, or that the people are at the center of. So when you look at all these things, why are we talking? But it's all right. We need to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it, they might think that our silence is assent. So Elvis, let's look at this. Now, if this bill was to succeed, pass, and become law, Nigeria would not be the only country to mandate voting for citizens once they reach the country's legal age of adulthood. Now, some other countries that have mandatory voting include Australia, Belgium, Brazil, Argentina, Singapore, Greece, Thailand, Turkey, and a few others. So it's not anything new. Consequences in these countries range from lack of enforcement. Some countries have it on paper, but they don't enforce. There are fines. There's also punishment of difficulty in getting government jobs, loss of access to public services, restriction from running for public office, and more. That's not what we're seeing in our bill anyway. So this is not something new, but it should be, of course, localized to our context. And when we look at all of this, it brings us back to the question of apathy. We've seen the rates of voter apathy grow from election to election, and people seemingly giving up that they don't necessarily believe in the democratic process anymore. Do you think in any way, when you compare how this bill is handled or how this mandatory voting goes on in other countries versus the bill we have in front of us here in Nigeria, does this bill at all address the issues that have led to low voter turnout from local to state and federal elections? And do you think that voter apathy is something to be punished or understood?
Okay, I think I need to think back on the countries you just mentioned. These are countries that have they have good operating system. And if you drop if there's an aircraft today for people to go to these countries you mentioned and obey that law, I'm sure Nigeria escaped. I think the timing of this bill first it makes it not needed at the moment. We have, like I said, and I will re-echo it again, we have other pertinent issues raising from unemployment, insecurity. We just talked about police brutality. I don't want to digress. There's so much to say about that.
Yeah.
But at the moment Nigeria youths are going through a lot. It's a very difficult time to be in Nigeria. Mostly if you want, as a young person, you want to make money legitimately. It's a very difficult time to be a young Nigerian. But I was thinking that the people who've contracted governance to, mostly the legislator, will make bills that will that will better the lives of Nigeria. But in this administration, we've seen legislators, people who've trusted with our vote, using statements of mocking the people, let the poor breathe, using statements of sending prayers to our envelopes. These are non-inspiring statements. And let's not forget too, when you teach people one thing over and over again with your precedents, whether positive or whether with your character and your statement, whether positive or negative, it becomes a culture. Let's ask ourselves, we pray for good leadership. Well, we should be praying for good citizenry, because the citizens are metamorphosed to become leaders. What are the leaders teaching us today? The people who contracted governance to our vote. What are they teaching us today? Because that will be a culture, that will be a pathway for the next set of leaders. Like I said, I don't want to digress. At the moment, this bill, it's let me use in the word of Femi Falana, is unconstitutional. It's not what we need at the moment. We need a bill that will create opportunities for young Nigerians. We need a bill that will make it compulsory that once you graduate with, let's say, 2-1, you are sure of a job waiting for you. Because the people ruling us today, there were times I was not born then, I was told that those that even had WAEC had a job waiting for them. How come people that benefited from free healthcare, good road network, they didn't need to live in the Eyebrow area, they didn't need to have the right surname, they got a good job? How come at the moment you need to have the right surname, you need to know one person, even when you are qualified, you can't get it? I think any national member of the National Assembly listening to me today should think about, there should be a bill that makes sure that there's a job or something waiting for you the moment you're a Nigerian graduate, because we are blessed with rich natural resources. And what we have, what we are blessed with, should be able to make Nigeria habitable and not making young people escape Nigeria.
All right, so this is a country where polling units are sometimes unsafe, where polling units are sometimes inaccessible, where polling units are even poorly managed. There are deeper issues of electoral credibility, insecurity, voter oppression, and these cannot be ignored because they create physical and psychological barriers to voting. So if not mandatory voting, then what? What real steps can we take to rebuild trust and drive meaningful participation in our elections? Not that you are steamrolling or bamboozling or bullying people to head to the polls.
I don't know how other countries have done it. Like I said, I've been privileged to be an electoral observer in some African countries. But back in Liberia, yeah, I saw the masses, they had trust in the electoral umpire. That was before the election, the people are engaged. And after the election, it reflected what the people are engaged told me. I don't know how they do it. But let's tell ourselves the truth. The process of picking resident electoral observers, INEC chairman, is the person that pays the piper detects the tone. I think we should look into such processes of picking our electoral umpires, their track records, where they've been from, because you cannot make me a resident electoral observer. It's very, very difficult in Nigeria today to make me a resident electoral observer. And someone that I was one aide to is contesting for that election. The way Nigeria goes, I might end up being biased. If we build trust among the electoral umpire and people build confidence in the electoral umpire, you don't need a bill to tell someone to go and vote when he knows that his action and inaction at the poll will determine his future in his country in the next 4 years. So for me, we should start building strong institutions. And building strong institutions means empowering the electoral umpire, which is INEC. We need to review that act properly. Everybody needs to sit down and review the selection process of the INEC chairman, the resident electoral commissioner. With that, we'll get people, the right people to be in the right places. Let's not forget to, I want to seize the opportunity to amplify the need for, well, I'm sure we have young federal legislators. There is need for independent candidates. I think if we've gotten to the stage where a bill for mandatory voting in Nigeria, when we have other pressing issues, there is time to introduce a bill for independent candidacy, where people with character, capacity, and competence can, pick up a form without being in a party and be elected by the people, and the vote of the people will count.
All right, we'll take one final time out. Elvis, when we come back, this is not the only thing about voting that has come into national discourse in the past few weeks. INEC has also made a comment or two that has raised some eyebrows. We'll get into that and, of course, look into the future of this. Stay with us. Now, thank you for staying with us for this very important conversation. The mandatory voting bill is not the only news around elections and voting in Nigeria that has caused controversy and raised recent dust. Now, in April, the Independent National Electoral Commission said it was willing to allow eligible Nigerians who don't have permanent voter cards to vote in the 2027 general elections. INEC's Chief Press Secretary, Rotimi Oyekanmi, said that while the commission was committed to expanding voter access through technology, he emphasized that legal provisions must first be updated to accommodate any shift from the current PVC-only system. Now, Elvis, I'd like to ask, I'm even of the feeling that we shouldn't even be hearing INEC mention this, even if it does require legal changes that could take time, because these are the kind of comments that sometimes get overblown, sometimes get over X-rayed, but these are the comments that drop, that even though nothing changes, they create a psychological impression in the minds of the electorate that these are the things that INEC is open to. Just your quick thoughts on this before we come back to the mandatory voting bill.
Okay, like you said, like April, that people that are not privileged to have PVC can, vote, right?
Yes, but INEC said there'll be legal adjustment. They're open to it.
INEC, right?
Yes, that they're open to it.
They're open to vote.
Yeah.
I'm a geologist, and in one of the laws I was taught in school, they said the past is the key to the future. those that were privileged to have voters card that voted, can Nigerians say their vote reflected reality today? I'm not sure. So if you've not been able to manage those that are privileged to have voters card, you've not been able to be accountable with the, the ripple effect of their votes. How do you manage those that don't have voters card? So for me, I think INEC itself should, take a leap from other countries that have built trust with their citizens. I think it's not about Jamboree. It should go for trainings. Those that have been selected at the moment that are resident electoral officers and all that, they should go for trainings and see what other electoral buyers are doing and come and, replicate it in Nigeria. Fine. There's always a little percentage of hiccups here and there during our electoral process, but that of Nigeria, the gap is just too much, and that alone has bettered voter apathy and all that. So when people say they don't want to come out to vote, it's not about the fact that their votes might not really count. It's about the fact that how secure that they will. We've seen cases where the last election, some persons went to vote and they were hospitalized. We've seen cases where the resources we have today can, if we have reasonable people who've contracted governance to with our votes, resources we have today can make you stay in your house and vote. If you can tie our NIM, if some things I apply for, you say you should bring our NIM. Why not use our NIM? We'll just go to an ATM or any ATM machine and vote. Must you pass us through the rigorous process of? Let's not forget young people that are serving coppers that have died in the quest of, these are electoral reforms and all that. I think our leaders should sit back and think. You might be privileged today to be at the table where critical decisions about Nigerians is being taken. Are you proud of what is happening in Nigeria? Is this the Nigeria you want to leave behind? Let's not forget too that there was a privileged leader who wrote a book today, where people donated a lot of money that, brought out an information about what a mistake. I don't know if he called it a mistake, but someone that won an election and was not declared a winner of that election, and everybody's clapping. Let's not forget that decision changed the dynamics of Nigeria. So that's past. At the moment, you were elected to serve the people. When all the lights are off, I'm saying this to every privileged person on the table of decision making today. Are you proud of the decisions you've been making? Are you proud of the Nigeria we have today? A Nigeria where people cannot travel from one place to the other. A Nigeria where people can barely feed. When 1% of the masses is with the wealth, while 99% of the masses, they are living in penury. For me, that's not the Nigeria I want. So despite I'm privileged to be around the corridor of power, but it's a time of calling out. We need to, if we're complacent, things might not go the way we want to go, the way we want Nigeria to be.
Oh, we want to thank you so much.
So for me, this bill is not what we need at the moment. While I want to appreciate whoever introduced this bill, at the moment,
it's not what Nigeria
needs at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Elvis. Thank you.